Welcome in, guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. Hope you guys are doing well and peace be upon you all. So, today we got some exciting stuff to talk about as well. So, the round of 16 just finished up in the FIBA EuroBasket 2025 tournament. We had some amazing games, we had some incredible upsets. So, we got some good stuff to talk about. So, the first half of the show, we're going to take a look at the games that happened in the round of 16. We're going to see who won, who played well, what players stood out, and just give our thoughts and opinions about the matchups. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to take a look at the next stage, the quarterfinal games. We're going to go through each one and see who we like in those games and make our predictions. So we got some good stuff to talk about. Before we do get started, I would like to mention that on my YouTube channel, I create content about money, sports, and personal topics with the goal of bringing value to other people's lives. So if you guys find value in this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can continue making these videos. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the round of 16. All right, so here we have the bracket for the round of 16 games that just happened. So let's take a look at each one and see what happened. So the first matchup was between Lithuania and Kristaps Porzingis and Latvia. So it looks like Lithuania got the win 88 to 79, and they moved on to the quarterfinals. So let's jump into this game and see if we can find some details here. So a 9-point win by Lithuania. Let's take a look at the game leaders. So for Latvia, Kristaps Porzingis had 39 points. Kristaps Porzingis 34. And Velitska had 21 for Lithuania. Porzingis with 19 rebounds. Assists, Arnas Velitska had 11 for Lithuania. And Porzingis had 2 steals for Latvia. So it looks like Lithuania pretty much led the whole game. And it was a competitive game to watch, but just Lithuania is just a little better than Latvia, even with Kristaps Porzingis. So they were able to get the win on this one, and they moved on to the quarterfinals. So good job by them. So the next game that we're going to take a look at is the game between Greece and Israel. So it looks like Greece got the win 84 to 79. Giannis Antetokounmpo had a huge game, and Greece moves on to the quarterfinals to play Lithuania. So let's just jump into this game a little bit and look at some of the details. So 5-point win by Greece. Giannis had 37 points. He had the highest efficiency numbers as well. 10 rebounds for Giannis. 1 block. So this is actually a very good game to watch. Greece led pretty much the whole game, but Israel made it close at the very end. But Giannis was just unstoppable. I mean, he looks like a grown man playing with kids out there. He's just too tall, too long, too athletic. So very impressive win by Greece and Giannis, and they keep the show going. So the next matchup we're gonna take a look at is Turkey versus Sweden. Turkey squeezed out the win 85 to 79. Very close game. Sweden fought the whole way, but Turkey moves on to the quarterfinals. And let's jump into this game a little bit. So Turkey get a 6-point win. Şengün 24 points, 16 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks. Şengün had the highest efficiency numbers, 24 points for him, 16 rebounds, 6 assists. Yeah, this game was very close. You can see on here, Sweden led pretty much the first half, but then in the second half, Turkey stepped up their game and took the lead and held on to it for the rest of the game. But I didn't realize Sweden was, this good in basketball. I think a lot of people thought this would just be an easy win for Turkey, but Sweden definitely surprised a lot of people with their play. So good game by Sweden, but Turkey and Şengün move on. And just watching Şengün, he's got probably the smoothest post game that I've seen in a long time. He's got so many moves, and it just looks very pretty, like in the post. So I think he's gonna have a huge season next year in the NBA as well. So we'll see what happens in the next round. So the next game we're gonna talk about is the game between Poland and Bosnia and Herzegovina. So unfortunately, my home country lost this one 80 to 72. So Poland moved on to the quarterfinals and they're going to face Turkey. So let's jump into this game to see exactly what happened. So Poland get an 8-point win over Bosnia and Herzegovina. Player of the game, Jordan Lloyd, 28 points, 50% from the field, 3 rebounds. Let's take a look at the game leaders. So efficiency for Bosnia, Yusuf Nurkic with 20 points, 20 for Nurkic, rebounds, 7 for Nurkic, 2 blocks for Nurkic. So this game was very interesting. Like Bosnia and Herzegovina led the first 3 quarters, as you can see on here. But at the very end of the third quarter, Poland made it very close and took a slight lead. And then just in the fourth, they just kind of extended their lead. And Bosnia just never was able to catch up with them and make it close at the very end. So I'm definitely disappointed with this loss for my home country. But overall, in the tournament, we went 3-3. We had 3 wins. One was versus Cyprus, another one versus Greece, and then Georgia. And then we lost 3 games, one versus Spain, then Italy, and then lost this one to Poland. So overall, we're proud of our Bosnian national basketball team. They're still young. They have a lot more tournaments to play together. I want to see Canan Musa come back to the team and play with Nurkic. That would be like a great duo going forward. So we'll see what Bosnia's team looks like going forward. But in this game, congratulations to Poland on a deserved win. All right. So the next game on the list is the game between Germany and Portugal. And Germany got a pretty easy win, 85 to 58 over Portugal, and they move on to the quarterfinals. So let's jump into this game a little bit. So all these other games in the round of 16 were pretty close, but this one was kind of the only blowout. So let's see what happened here. So Germany won by 27 points. Player of the game was Franz Wagner, 16 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. All right, game leaders. As far as efficiency, Franz Wagner had the highest number, points, 16 for Wagner. He also had 7 rebounds. All right, so very good game by Franz Wagner. So initially, the game was somewhat close. Portugal actually had a lead a couple different times in the first half, but then, as this chart shows, you can see that towards the end, Germany just took over and dominated, and they ran away with the lead and win at the very end. So, very good job by Germany. So, I think so far Germany has been the most impressive team in the tournament and in their games. Um, they have a lot of good players: Franz Wagner, Dennis Schroeder, Daniel Tice. So the Germans are looking very good in the tournament. Um, I don't think anybody has been as impressive as they have been. So we'll see if they can keep that going in the quarterfinals. All right. The next game we're going to talk about is the game between Italy and Slovenia. Close game, but Slovenia and Luka Doncic get the win 84 to 77, and they move on to the quarterfinals to play Germany. All right, so let's jump into this game a little bit. So, 7-point win by Slovenia. Luka Doncic had an amazing game. He scored 42 points. Let's take a look at some of the numbers here. As far as efficiency, Doncic with 43 points, 42 for Doncic. He also had 10 rebounds. And looks like he had 3 steals as well. So Luka is all over the court, contributing in many different ways. So in this game, you can see that Slovenia led pretty much all the game except a minute and a half. So even though the game was close at the very end, Slovenia pretty much dominated this whole game. A very nice win by them. Luka Doncic, just a monster game, 42 points. He's having an amazing tournament. Probably the front runner for MVP, along with Giannis. We'll see how it ends up in the end, but this is the team that I'm rooting for, just because my home country is out of the tournament now, and Slovenia is the next closest thing or next closest country. And I like Luka Doncic, so I'll be rooting for Slovenia in the tournament, along with Turkey. So those are my two favorite teams left in the tournament, and we'll see how Slovenia does in the next round. All right, so the next game we're going to talk about is probably the biggest upset in the tournament. So Serbia, the heavy favorite to win the whole tournament, they go down and lose to Finland 86 to 92. So this is a crazy upset. I don't think anybody expected this. I mean, again, they were supposed to be one of the teams to win the tournament, if not, get a medal. But now they get knocked out in the round of 16. So huge, huge upset here. And I don't think anybody saw this coming. So Serbia loses by 6 points. Let's take a look at some of the numbers. So efficiency, Jokic had 37, Markkanen had 26 points, Jokic 33, Lauri Markkanen 29. Rebounds, Jokic 8, Markkanen 8. Jokic also had a block. And steals, Jokic had 3 and Lauri Markkanen had 4. So this was just an amazing game to watch. I mean, Finland, took the lead initially in the first quarter. In the second quarter, Serbia caught up and took the lead. But then in the second half, Finland was just not going to go away. And they were able to take back the lead and win the game. So crazy, crazy result in this one. And I didn't realize like Lauri Markkanen was this good. I'm gonna definitely have to watch him more in the NBA this upcoming season. And very disappointing loss for Jokic, considered one of the best players in the world. So we'll see what this means going forward. We'll see if this was just a one-off for Finland or if they're legit contenders to win the tournament. So we'll see what happens in the next round, but crazy, crazy upset here. The last game we're going to take a look at in the round of 16 was also an upset. So France lose to Georgia 70 to 80. So France, one of the favorites in the tournament, go down, very similar to Serbia going down. So crazy upset here as well, but Georgia move on and they're going to play Finland in the quarterfinals. So let's take a look at this game a little bit. So on this game leaders efficiency, Kamar Baldwin had 30 points. Kamar Baldwin had 24. As far as rebounds, Mamu Kosheveli had 11 assists. Batadze had 4. And Kamar Baldwin also had 2 steals. So even though France was a favorite in this game, Georgia pretty much dominated this whole game. You can see that they led most of the time. France did catch up and have a lead for a few minutes, but a very impressive game by Georgia, an unexpected win for them. I was definitely surprised. But France, they don't really have their best lineup. their best players on the team. So this isn't really the typical France team. Like if they had Victor Wembanyama play for them, this game wouldn't even be close. But nonetheless, Georgia, they squeeze out the win over France and they move on to the quarterfinals and they're going to play Finland. So very, very exciting round of 16 games that happened. A lot of the good teams moved on: Lithuania, Greece, Turkey, Germany, Slovenia. We had two unbelievable upsets. Serbia go down, France go down. And just me personally, I'm a little disappointed that my home country of Bosnia and Herzegovina lost. But that wraps up the round of 16. All right. So, who was the MVP of the round of 16? So, we have some candidates here: Porzingis, Luka Doncic, Jokic, Baldwin, and Giannis. What do you guys think? Who was the MVP? So, let's take a look here. So, this is the voting. So, I would go with Luka, but let's see what the numbers say. So 44% say Luka, 16 say, or 6% say Kamar Baldwin, 40% say Giannis, 7 Porzingis, and Jokic with 3% of the votes. So, all right. Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much everybody has it right. Either it's Luka Doncic or Giannis Antetokounmpo. One of them was definitely the MVP of the round of 16. Giannis had 37 points. He shot 18 for 21, grabbed 10 rebounds, and Luka had 42 points, 10 rebounds, 3 steals. And out of the 42 points, he had 22 in the first quarter. So either of those two guys definitely deserve it. Um, and I think in the tournament as a whole, both of them are the two favorites for MVP. Also, I think Şengün of Turkey has a chance. Lauri Markkanen of Finland has a chance. But I think definitely that Luka and Giannis are the two front runners for MVP for the tournament as a whole. So we'll see how they play in the upcoming games. And definitely we're going to see who gets the MVP at the end. All right. So next, let's talk about the most important part, and that's the upcoming quarterfinal matches. And let's make some predictions. All right, so let's take a look at the official bracket for the quarterfinals again. So, first matchup, Lithuania versus Greece. Next one, Turkey versus Poland. Then Germany versus Slovenia. And finally, Finland versus Georgia. So, very, very tough games here. So, let's start with the first one at the top, Lithuania versus Greece. Let's just see what the odds are on this game before we make our pick. So, pick the winner. Greece has a 75% chance of winning, while Lithuania only has around 25%. So I think I would definitely agree with that. My expectation is that Greece with Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to be too much for Lithuania. I think Giannis is going to have another crazy game, 30 plus points, 10 plus rebounds. So I'm definitely going with Greece on this one, and I feel good about this pick. Lithuania is a good team. They're always competitive in international play, but I think Greece is, and Giannis are going to be too much. So Greece is going to the semifinals. All right, next game is Turkey versus Poland. So let's take a look at the odds on this game. Turkey is a heavy favorite, 86% chance of winning, or 87, and Poland 13% chance. So I think I would agree with everyone else. Turkey should win this game pretty easily. Alperen Şengün for Turkey should have another amazing game. He's going to be down in the post, a lot of moves. He's going to be getting a lot of buckets down low with his finesse game. So Turkey should move on to the semifinals. And if that happens, it would be Greece versus Turkey in the semi-final. All right. Next game, Germany versus Slovenia. Let's take a look at the odds on this game. So Germany is also a heavy favorite. They have an 80% chance of winning, while Slovenia only has 20%. So in this game, I'm definitely going to be rooting for Slovenia just because I like Luka Doncic and I want him to win. But that's my heart speaking. But in my head, I definitely think Germany is a better team as a whole. So in this game, my expectation is that Germany will beat Slovenia. However, I will want Slovenia to win and will be rooting for them. So we will see what happens. And in the final quarterfinals game, it's going to be Finland versus Georgia. Let's take a look at the odds on this one. Finland is a heavy favorite. They have a 78% chance of winning the game. Georgia, 22%. So this is going to be tough as well. Not really familiar with either of these teams too much other than this tournament. But since Finland beat the favorite Serbia, that tells me a lot. So I'm going to go with Finland to beat Georgia. And therefore, the other semifinal that I expect is Germany versus Finland. So those are my predictions. Again, I think Greece will move on along with Turkey, and that the two of them will play in the semifinal. And Turkey is one of two of my favorite teams left in the tournament. And then in the other matchups, I expect Germany to win and Finland to win, and therefore Germany and Finland in the other semifinal matchup. My other favorite team is Slovenia, so I'm hoping for an upset in the Germany game, but I doubt it just from what I've seen so far from Germany. So we shall see what happens going forward, and we'll be rooting for Turkey and Slovenia. All right, guys. So that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for the round of 16. I really hope you guys enjoyed this material. Um, in the next video, I'm going to talk about the quarterfinals and semifinal games. So I'm going to combine that into one video. and we'll see what happens at those stages. So if you guys found value in this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can continue making these videos. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.